Welcome to Magic Arcanum! I'm Ryan Gomez. Behind the scenes is Nicole Burdick, and we're so glad you're here because it's story time. This year, Magic the Gathering starts celebrating its 30th anniversary, featuring events and product releases that tap into our collective nostalgia for the world's best trading card game. Packs of Dominaria United, for example, will include cards from the 1994 set Legends. And these aren't reprints, they are literally the original cards, which Wizards of the Coast says they've found sitting around in a warehouse, just waiting for their day to shine. And that's cool! Looking back at the past and revisiting all of the stuff that got us to where we are today can be a lot of fun. But me, I've got my eyes on the future, baby. So I watched that scene from Avengers Infinity War 14,605 times so that I could learn to do what Doctor Strange did. And then I went forward in time to view alternate futures and learn all I could about what the next 10 years hold for Magic. And now, my little lore mages, I will share what I saw with you. First of all, the big question. What happens to the reserved list? It's still around. Even in the year 2032, there hasn't been another in-game reprint of classic cards like the Black Lotus. But a compromise was reached at some point. They realized they could use the art cards you get in set boosters as a way of making token versions of reserve list cards. So basically, now you can get a card that is the art of a Black Lotus on the front, and on the back it has a little paragraph about the history of the original card. Since it doesn't have a real card back, it's not technically a reprint and not a game-legal card. But that hasn't stopped people from using these commemorative tokens as de facto proxies in formats that allow them. In fact, within the next 10 years, the reprint strategy from Wizards becomes even more ambitious. This is thanks largely to mounting pressure from digital games, including the second generation of NFTs, which are now called MCOs after a desperately needed rebranding. These mobile collectible objects live on your phone, tied to a device's unique profile. They don't have the energy costs of traditional NFTs, but they can be rare, and the chase part is still there. Which is what allowed Wizards to make their paper game more accessible while turning their whale hunting to MCOs. Anyway, this isn't supposed to be a Hasbro stockholders meeting. We're here to talk about Magic. Over the next 10 years, Wizards will continue to tinker with their product lines and eventually find success with the following. There are now just 3 standard legal sets released per year. With rotation staying at the 2-year mark, this makes for a smaller card pool, but folks don't seem to mind because Commander has become the way most people play the game. And that's why the 4th major annual set, the one that used to be a core set, has become a draftable Commander set. Yes, within the next decade, we basically get a yearly Commander Legends product, and it's super popular. It makes a lot of sense. It provides an entry point for new players, the way the old core sets used to do. It provides a spot to reprint format staples, not just for Commander, but for Pioneer, and Modern as well. Yeah, Modern is still a thing in the year 2032. You can draft Commander 2032 just like you do Commander Legends in the present day. The rules don't really change. But they also found a way to make those weird theme boosters useful by combining them with the Commander collection packs of today. Now, instead of a fixed 8 cards, these updated theme boosters have 35 semi-random ones in them, including some lands and at least 1 legendary creature. You can smash 2 of them together and have a 60-card draft-sized Commander deck by dropping the 10 extra cards, which might be duplicates or ones you don't really want to play with. Or you can pull 3 of them together and have an instant full-sized Commander deck ready to rumble with the big boys. It's a very flexible system, and it feels like a combination of jumpstart and wacky drafting, and it just works. They even have special art versions of Commander staples that you can only get in these packs, now appropriately called Commander kits. And they are always flying off the shelf at game stores. But whatever, product lines change all the time, and of course they're still printing new sets 10 years from now, Ryan. We want to know about the story stuff. This is Magic Arcanum, after all. I hear you. So let's start with the animated Netflix show. It ends up being just okay. It's mostly a rehash of stories we already know, and it kinda contradicts some established lore, but the frustrating part is that it doesn't connect to anything happening in the game right now. I mean, Gideon is a major character, but he's dead, and he's not showing up in the sets anymore. So the people who watched the show can't, rush out and buy a pre-con with him in it or anything. So that was a big marketing opportunity that they missed out on. Despite that, they did a second season, which was released about a year and a half later, but by then interest had really fallen off, and Netflix lost a big chunk of their subscribers, so that was the end of the show. In terms of the main storyline, well, you're about to see what happens in Dominaria United and everything that comes next, so I won't get into that too much. But I will say, after the dust has settled from that event, Magic's story undergoes a pretty big change in tone and scale. We move out of the Gatewatch era and settle into smaller stories, almost exclusively set on existing planes. The pace of new planes really slows down over the next 3 or 4 years. And that's probably for the best, because some of the new worlds they tried just felt really empty and relied on stereotypes. I'm not sure if they were afraid to take risks or just felt lost after losing so many established characters all at once. So yeah, for about 4 years, we revisit places like Kaldheim, Ikoria, Ixalan, and even Ravnica again, and see how the local people struggle with the consequences of the... Well, I shouldn't say, but it involves dragons, a couple of old ones, if you know what I mean. Anyway, things are kind of grim and depressing there for a while until this new batch of planeswalkers rise to the challenge and try to help however they can. I mean, I say new, but we do see some familiar faces like Teo and Kazmina. Even Liliana shows up once in a while, mostly as the grizzled old mentor, taking over for Teferi's spot since he... Well, again, I shouldn't say. The point is, planeswalkers still exist, but the stories for the next 10 years focus more on the citizens of each plane interacting with the planeswalker that's visiting them, rather than following the planeswalkers across the planes, if that makes sense. And then there's the Dungeons and Dragons stuff. Since Adventures in the Forgotten Realms was successful, Wizards goes back to that well many more times over the next 10 years. The two properties become closer and closer, with more established characters getting Planeswalker cards and more gamebooks being set on established planes. In fact, around 2027, people stop saying they play Magic or Dungeons & Dragons. It's kind of expected you play both. So most folks I saw would just say that they played DD and MG, a sort of hybrid thing. What else? What else can I tell you? Oh, full art basic lands become the norm rather than a special thing, and secret layers continue to exist for about 6 more years, but then abruptly just stop for some reason. Personally, I think it was the Super Mario secret layer that killed it, but Nicole says it was probably the Care Bears Hate Bears one. We get a Western world and a subterranean world that ends up being the plane Vraska first planeswalked to when her spark ignited, but we never do find out Garrick's home plane. New Eldrazi Titans show up, but they mostly are background characters, a sort of looming threat that our New Age planeswalkers will have to deal with eventually, but so far they have avoided any direct confrontation. But yeah, mostly we get to enjoy small moments and events isolated to individual planes. We get to see what happened to Olivia and Edgar after their failed wedding. We get to see Kaladesh go through a golden age of invention now that everyone has free access to Aether. The next 10 years are really great for Magic. The game continues to grow, though I think Mark Rosewater got a little carried away with the squirrels in 2030, which is a shame because that's right when he retires. Make no mistake, all of this stuff will happen. Unless it doesn't, in which case you should leave a comment letting me know what you think Magic will be like when it celebrates its 40th birthday. Then make sure you'll like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next 10 years of great stories you'll only find here on Magic Arcanum. We'll see ya!